Introduction. Death and taxes, it is often said, are the only certainties in life, but to these must be added change. Change happens for a number of reasons, not least because humankind by nature is creative, seeking to change the world, or at least part of it, for some economic, social, or other perceived benefit. However, as well as opportunity, change can bring with it challenges, uncertainty, and insecurity. So understanding what drives change and how to cope with it involve important life and work skills. For organizations to survive, let alone prosper, in such a dynamic environment, they must get the most out of their people in terms of energy, initiative, and intellectual capital. Every employee should be encouraged to see themselves as an agent of change and be equipped with the knowledge, tools, techniques, and confidence to suggest ways of improving personal and organizational performance. It is this motivation and creativity that can lead to innovation. This course will help you build your insight, knowledge, skills, competencies, and other attributes that will help you to engage successfully with change, strategy, and projects undertaken in the workplace. Change can vary significantly in its nature, intensity, and scale. We use the term program to refer to a comprehensive and more or less structured response to a change situation, which must address the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that may have been identified both within the organization and in the external context in which the organization operates. Analyzing and managing change effectively is largely about establishing the aspirations of the organization and the strategy needed to achieve those aspirations. It is too easy to concentrate on the abstract notion of the organization, and in the process, forget that organizations are made up of people, the human dimension, with different attributes, needs, motivations, and aspirations. Project working has an increased focus on the technical and procedural aspects involved in introducing practical change. Of course, human factors such as effective team working and individual and group behavior are still crucial to a successful outcome. In the contemporary world, globalization is driving change at ever greater speed, and so we all need to learn how to live with change and meet the challenges it brings. Change and innovation are closely linked. Innovation is about doing something new or doing something in a new way that creates value for an organization, group, or wider society. Innovation is crucial in creating a competitive advantage. Not all change initiatives will have innovative outcomes, but it is difficult to innovate if an organization is against change. Change can evoke strong defensive reactions. To seek to secure something familiar is a common response, but where does safety really lie? Surely not by denying that the world is changing, but rather by facing up to change and making the best of the challenges and opportunities that it creates. Change affects us all periodically in our personal, social, and working lives. We may find change and the new challenges it brings exciting, or we may suffer diminished confidence in our ability to cope with new ideas, technologies, processes, and the new ways of doing things. We may feel nervous and reluctant to abandon the ways we have always done things, especially when things have worked well so far. How do you feel about change? Sometimes change may have been anticipated, but at other times it comes out of the blue. The consequences may be positive, such as being promoted at work, and at other times negative, such as when a close friend or family member dies. When change is unwanted, even when it is anticipated, we can experience a roller coaster of emotions, which may be traumatic depending upon the degree of change we are experiencing. Read through the text below, entitled The Coping Cycle. The Coping Cycle. Table 1.1 identifies 5 phases that are characteristic of the way people react to change. Similarities can be seen whether the change is something that has been anticipated, such as a proposed change at work, or something that comes out of the blue, such as a serious illness or death. Table 1.1. The coping cycle. Phase 1. Denial. Initial disbelief that a change is underway. We have always done things this way. Why change? We are making a profit, aren't we? Don't change a winning team. We tried that before, but it did not work. Phase 2. Defense. Reality intrudes, and people realize they must react. That's fine, but it won't work in my area. I'd like to get involved, but I have too much work to do. The theory is fine, but it won't work in practice. Phase 3. Discarding, moving on from the defensive stance. Whether I like it or not, it is going to happen, so I had better. Well, here it is. We are committed to it. Here's how I see it. I was giving that new machine a try. And do you know? I've been asked to join the group looking at X. Phase 4. Adaptation. Experimenting and feeling the way forward. We are still trying to get the new X to work. We are getting most of the output from the new X, but I still think we need to. We are never going to get X to work unless those so-and-sos in that department pull their finger out. I kept telling them that that was what we needed to do, and finally, they have done. It's phase 5. Internalization. What was the future state is now the current state. I was talking to X in the IY department the other day about that customer order. We are getting a group together to see whether we want to implement that software upgrade. That is one of the things I want to raise at my next review source. Adapted from Carnell in 1999, an individual's perspective of a change can typically lead to variations in levels of self-esteem and of performance, which are closely linked. And these are likely to vary with time as the individual passes through the stages of denial, defense, discarding, adaptation, and internalization, as shown in Figure 1.1. Change is all about moving from an initial state to a new state. The initial state may be one in which we have felt comfortable for some time, being characterized by comparative stability, unchanging routines, and a psychological state of relative satisfaction with things as they are. When change happens, the comfort ceases, and a period of uncertainty begins where we may question the necessity of change and what it will mean for us. This is a period of instability in which our response to change may be dominated by negative thoughts and concerns. Sometime afterwards, when the new state becomes the accepted normality, we may feel a period of psychological comfort returning as we learn to engage with the new order and the opportunities that accompany it. In an organizational context, change can be unsettling. The leaders in an organization may understand that change is needed, but not necessarily what form it should take. The metaphor of undertaking a journey is appropriate for both the individual and the organization facing change. The journey metaphor, the direction we should take as an individual or as an organization, will depend upon 1. The starting point, 2. Our purpose, mission, 3. An idea of where we need to be, our destination, vision, 4. The options along the way to help us to reach our desired future state, choice of route, the means of travel, and how urgently arrival is required. Leaders and agents who are involved in introducing change need to be aware of fluctuations in self-confidence, self-esteem, and motivation that others can experience as they progress through the coping cycle. Change isn't easy. People often deny the need for change, preferring instead to stay within or return to their comfort zone. Even when change is beneficial and an individual initially engages with change, early efforts can soon falter, as we all know from many abandoned New Year resolutions. At the corporate level, there are plenty of examples of organizations that have failed to change even when faced with overwhelming evidence of the need to do so. On the other hand, change can create a sense of liberation and achievement when people realize that they are making a difference and that their contributions are being valued. An increase in self-esteem is accompanied by an improvement in effectiveness, performance, and enthusiasm. Change perceptions. Will I lose my job? Be sidelined? Have to work with new people I don't know or don't like. Have to develop new skills, learn new things. Have to move to a new location. Be asked to do things I don't agree with. For employees, change can present a period of doubt, uncertainty, and possibly fear of the unknown. An individual may feel threatened. Employees may feel helpless because, despite brave words about participation from management, they feel that change is something that happens to them rather than something they can or want to contribute to. A new change initiative may well be seen as management craze. The challenge for any organization is to resolve these potential conflicts and mobilize its workforce to reach the destination and achieve the organization's strategic vision. This ability to manage change effectively can separate industry leaders from non-leaders. From a personal and career perspective, you need to be able to understand and contribute to the implementation of change processes. You also need to be able to recognize and use the opportunities for personal and career development during times of change. Different types of change. 1. Developmental to transformational. Organizations routinely experience minor levels of change every day when, for example, orders are taken for new customers, employees join or leave, production schedules and processes are modified. These day-to-day occurrences do not generally create significant difficulties for organizations or the people involved in implementing them, and they are usually dealt with in a routine manner. Significant change include that which is incremental in nature. It is termed developmental change because it is usually planned to correct or enhance some existing aspect of an organization. For example, when processes are significantly upgraded to meet required quality or safety standards. Also, the introduction of specific new skills or perhaps more general upskilling in an organization. Continual improvement programs often involve this type of incremental change. However, more significant change may become necessary. This is when the established ways of doing things become unsatisfactory or inadequate, and major change is required to establish a new framework in our lives or work. In your personal life, for example, you would undergo major change in starting a family, changing career, or approaching retirement. For organizations, for example, new competitors entering their markets to advances in the technology underlying their products or services. This level of change is usually referred to as transformational change. Transformational change is a more fundamental form of change, one that cannot be handled within the day-to-day procedures of an organization. In this type of change, the organization makes fundamental changes in the way it carries out its business under the influences of external or internal pressures. It can be more disruptive and worrying for the people involved in or affected by it, but it can also be an exciting and interesting opportunity for creativity and innovation to flourish. In conclusion, change is a continuum, and particular episodes can fall anywhere between the extremes of developmental and transformational change. The unique opportunities and the potential disruption, uncertainty, and risks can also vary considerably. 2. Closed, contained, or open. Rationalizing the need for change and working out how best to plan for it is important. Ralph Stacey, 1996, distinguished between change episodes where there are varying levels of certainty. Closed change, where there is certainty about what happened, why it happened, and what needed to be done. Contained change, where there is reasonable confidence about what happened, why it happened, and what needed to be done. Open-ended change, where there is disagreement about what happened, why it happened, and what needed to be done. From the descriptions of closed, contained, and open-ended change, you should see that the approach to planning is dependent upon the type of change that is involved. For closed change, where there is general acceptance and agreement, the planning and management of the necessary change can be defined in some detail and to an agreed schedule. Where change is open-ended and undertaken in a context that is complex and uncertain, Rigorous and detailed planning is likely to be difficult and less effective, though planning the framework for change to happen is still essential. Here, the change situations and the possible problems and solutions may not be predictable from the start. In complex situations, the creation of the future state can emerge as a consequence of the actions and interactions of those engaged in the change process. In slide 29, we have a closed, contained, and open diagram to help us show how much agreement and certainty there is among the people involved in the information or idea we're presenting. The skills of the change leader should focus upon the buy-in and engagement of all who are affected. The term emergent is used to describe change that cannot be planned definitively and in details from the start, but which emerges as things become clearer and possible, solutions become evident. For all types of change, there will need to be a careful analysis of both the external forces at play, as well as the internal resources available to the organization to meet the challenge. 3. Continuing waves of change. For some organization, the pressure to change is now so relentless that it is desirable to develop processes and cultures to deal with change. Any change program should aim at making an organization more receptive to future change and to the current change proposal. Managers, leaders, or agents of change need to acquire the necessary skills to simultaneously cope with ongoing operational matters, while at the same time contributing effectively to change programs. An organization capable of conducting its routine business efficiently while also introducing beneficial change is likely to thrive in difficult conditions. An organization that can survive in a continual improvement mode of operation is coherent and flexible, enabling it to predict and respond to new challenges. These organizations leverage the most out of their staff, encouraging them to think outside the box, think innovatively about potential change, contribute their ideas to the organization. A learning organization is where the approach to change is characterized by a continuous learning process. 4. Readiness to change culture, power, and politics. All organizations develop a distinct cultural identity which may become an asset or a liability during periods of change. People within organizations are both influenced by and contribute to the organization's established culture. Culture in an organization is sometimes expressed by the way we do things around here, is the result of shared norms, values, and perceptions. It can be seen in the dress codes, the rituals that people engage in, the stories that they tell, and how they relate to work colleagues as well, others outside the organization, such as customers and suppliers. An organization's culture normally develops, gradually and partly as a result of management design, partly as a result of the sector in which the organization operates, and partly as a result of the employee experiences, historical story or experience, and demographic mix of the workforce and so on. While culture can help create a sense of belonging and shared destiny, it can prove to be an obstacle to change, especially where the existing culture is risk-averse, or if the change strategy is perceived by some to challenge prevailing group values. 5. Drivers of change. From the 1970s onwards, it is generally true to say that periods of stability have become shorter and the necessity to make changes more frequent. Fundamental reasons for this include fast and frequent technological change, globalization of production of goods and services, markets, and competition, cheaper communication and distribution supported by the revolution in information and communication technology, government deregulation, including privatization and legislation to promote competition, changes in society and demography, the competition for scarce natural resources, ecological concerns. Competitive pressure is an important driver of change. Even if a business has few serious competitors and is under little market pressure to change, there is often pressure from governments, other regulatory agencies, and the requirements to maximize value for money. Even if a business process produces the goods or services that satisfies current needs, the question is, in a highly competitive world, how long will that continue to be the case? Another major source of change are mergers, acquisitions, and restructuring activity. Employees experience this directly several times in their working lives. 6. Impact of change on employees. Transformational changes require a great level of preparedness and awareness of the fundamentals of change. Employees need to develop skills and competencies to enable them to lead and thrive during periods of change. The changing organizational context. Successful individuals and organizations are those that are aware of their context and in particular alert to changes in that context. The organizational context can be visualized as a series of concentric circles, each depicting a level of influence. Figure 1.5. This influence gradually diminishes as we move away from the center. The circles are explained as follows. Zone 1 is the inner circle, you and your immediate working environment. Zone 2, the other departments, management structure, human, physical, and financial resources. Zone 3, customers, suppliers, and local factors. Zone 4, social trends, the national and international economic climate, national government policy, global marketplace, technological innovation, and environmental and ethical factors. Figure 1.5, note that the bidirectional arrows indicate that influence flows both ways, but not in equal measure.
The end of Chapter 1. The Nature of Change.